Kira's personal cruiser was called the Ember's Wing. It was the size of a small city. Marcus had seen human capital ships before, during his training. He had been impressed by their size and power. The Ember's Wing made those ships look like toys. The hangar bay alone was large enough to hold 50 mechs like the Ironclad. Marcus walked his machine into the designated storage area and felt very, very small. Dracari crew members moved around him, each one at least 30 feet tall. They looked at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. None of them spoke to him directly. Kira had explained her proposal during the walk to her ship. She was traveling to a neutral space station called Argenum Spire for a diplomatic meeting. Her mother was an important member of the Dracari ruling council, which made Kira important by association. She needed a herald, someone to announce her presence and handle small tasks that were beneath her status. Marcus had pointed out that he was a human soldier, not a servant. Kira had pointed out that the alternative was death. Marcus became a herald. The journey to Argenum Spire would take 7 days. During that time, Marcus learned more about the Dracari than any human had learned in decades of conflict. Kira was, as she had said, curious about his kind. She asked him questions constantly, sometimes waking him in the middle of his sleep cycle to inquire about some aspect of human culture that had occurred to her. "Why do you wear clothing?" she asked on the second day. "You have no scales to display, no markings to show your lineage. What is the purpose?" "We get cold," Marcus explained, "and it is considered improper to be naked in public." Improper. Kira tasted the word like it was a strange food. Your species has many rules about things that do not matter. We have rules about everything. It is kind of our thing. Inefficient, Kira declared, but also interesting. She was always saying that. Interesting. Marcus got the feeling that Kira found very few things interesting, and that his presence had become a novelty. She was determined to examine thoroughly on the 4th day. Kira took him to the observation deck. It was a massive room with walls made entirely of transparent material. Stars drifted past in the infinite blackness of space. Marcus stood in the Ironclad's cockpit and looked out at the universe, feeling smaller than he ever had before. Kira sat beside him. Even sitting, she towered over his mech. She had been quiet for most of the day, lost in thoughts she did not share. But now she spoke, her voice softer than usual. "I am the youngest of 7 sisters. Did I tell you that? You did not. 7 daughters. In Dracari culture, that is considered a great blessing. My mother is very proud." There was something in Kira's voice that suggested she did not share that pride. "My eldest sister commands a fleet. My second sister is a diplomat who helped negotiate the peace treaty with your kind. My third sister is a scientist. My fourth sister is a warrior of great renown." And so on. Each of them has found their purpose. Each of them has made our mother proud. And you? Kira's copper eyes dimmed slightly. "I am the 7th daughter. By the time I was born, all the important roles were taken. I am trained in combat, but I am not the best warrior. I understand politics, but I am not the cleverest diplomat. I am adequate at everything, exceptional at nothing." Marcus was surprised by her honesty. He had expected Dracari to be proud and boastful. He had not expected vulnerability. "That sounds lonely," he said. Kira looked at him. Really looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time. It is very lonely." She turned back to the stars. "My sisters have all found mates. Strong warriors, brilliant diplomats, powerful commanders. They have clutches of their own, daughters who will carry on their legacy. And the first." She fell silent for a long moment. "I have not been intimate in 16 months, she said finally. "Not because there are no suitors. There are always suitors for a daughter of the Crimson Peaks, but they are all so boring. They speak of glory and honor and tradition, and I want to fall asleep. They tell me about their victories in battle, and I find myself counting the scales on my arm to stay awake. Marcus did not know what to say. This felt like a very personal confession, the kind of thing you did not share with a stranger. Especially not a stranger from a species you had been at war with just 2 years ago. Maybe you just have not found the right person, he offered. Kyra laughed, but it was not her usual thunderous sound. It was quieter, sadder. Perhaps I am broken. My sisters certainly think so. They say I am too difficult, too demanding, too strange. She looked at Marcus again. What do you think, little metal thing? Am I too strange? I think you are talking to a human inside a mechanical suit about your love life while floating through space. I think strange is relative. This time, her laugh was genuine. You are funny. I did not expect humans to be funny. Your species always seemed so serious during the war. So determined. So terrified. Yes, that too. But you never stopped fighting. Even when we destroyed your fleets, you built new ones. Even when we burned your colonies, you founded more. It was infuriating. She paused. And impressive. Your kind wraps itself in metal because you are soft. But you make the metal do impossible things. That is a kind of strength my people do not understand. Marcus looked at her massive form, at the claws that could tear through his mech like paper, at the scales that could stop any weapon he carried. We do what we have to do. We adapt. We survive. It is also kind of our thing. Survival, Kyra mused. Yes, your species is very good at that. My mother once said that humanity was like a disease. No matter how many times you think you have killed it, it comes back stronger. Your mother sounds charming. She is terrifying. You will probably meet her eventually, if you survive long enough. Marcus decided not to think about that possibility. The remaining days passed quickly. Marcus found himself looking forward to his conversations with Kyra. She was sharp and curious and surprisingly funny. When she was not threatening to eat him, she asked about Earth, about human families, about why humans fell in love and stayed together even when it made no logical sense. Marcus told her about his parents, who had been married for 40 years. He told her about his sister, who had 3 children and a husband who could not cook to save his life. He told her about the small moments that made human life meaningful. Shared meals, inside jokes, the comfort of knowing someone would be there when you came home. Kira listened to all of it with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. Your species bonds deeply, she said on the 6th day, even with individuals who are not related by blood. That is strange to us. Drakari bonds are fierce but rare. We do not give ourselves easily. Neither do we, Marcus said. But when we do, we mean it. Kira was quiet for a long time after that. On the 7th day, they arrived at Argentum Spire. Marcus had no idea that in less than 24 hours, everything would fall apart. Lieutenant Marcus Chun was not ready for this mission. He had been piloting the Rerex-7 mech, which everyone called the Ironclad, for only 3 weeks. 3 weeks of training simulations. 3 weeks of basic patrol routes around safe space stations. 3 weeks of learning which buttons did what, and how not to trip over asteroid debris. Now he was walking his 30-foot metal suit across the rocky surface of Vayneth 4, a border world at the edge of Drakari space. The Drakari Sisterhood had been at war with humanity for 15 years before the peace treaty was signed. Marcus had been a teenager when the war ended. He remembered watching the news feeds, seeing footage of the massive dragon-like aliens tearing through human battle lines like paper. The Drakari were not actually dragons. They were something far older and far more dangerous. They stood between 30 and 50 feet tall. They had scales that could stop bullets. They had claws that could tear through ship hulls. They had wings though most preferred to walk. And they were all female. Every single one of them. Their reproduction was a mystery that human scientists were still trying to understand. Marcus checked his sensors for the 5th time. The neutral zone was supposed to be empty. His patrol route was supposed to be simple. Walk from point A to point B, scan for any unusual activity, and return to base. A milk run, his commander had called it. The sensor display flickered. Marcus tapped the screen inside his cockpit. The display flickered again and then went dark. That's not good, he said to himself. He tried to restart the navigation system. Nothing happened. He tried the backup system. Also nothing. The ironclad was still walking, still functional, but Marcus had no idea where he was going anymore. He should have stopped. He should have called for help. But his communication system was also acting strange, filling with static whenever he tried to reach base. So Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. He kept walking, hoping to find a landmark he recognized. He walked for 2 hours. When the ground beneath him changed from gray rock to black volcanic stone, Marcus finally realized he had made a terrible mistake. Black stone meant he had crossed into the Ashfall Valley. Ashfall Valley was not in the neutral zone. Ashfall Valley was Drakari territory. Marcus turned the ironclad around, ready to run back the way he came. That was when he saw her. She was enormous. Even by Drakari standards, she was huge. She stood at least 45 feet tall, her body covered in scales that looked like polished obsidian. In the light of the alien sun, those scales shimmered with hints of deep violet. Her eyes were the color of molten copper, bright and burning and fixed directly on Marcus. She had been hunting. There was blood on her claws and the remains of some large creature behind her. She had been in the middle of her meal when a lost human in a metal suit had wandered into her territory. Marcus froze. His training told him to raise the ironclad's arms in a non-threatening gesture. His instincts told him to run. His body refused to do either. He just stood there, a tiny metal man facing a goddess of scales and fire. The Drakari woman tilted her head. She looked at him the way a cat might look at a particularly stupid mouse. Then she laughed. The sound was incredible. It rolled across the valley like thunder, deep and rumbling and surprisingly warm. It was not the laugh of a predator about to kill its prey. It was the laugh of someone who had just witnessed something genuinely amusing. "What?" she said, her voice carrying easily across the distance between them. "Is the most lost little metal thing doing in my hunting grounds?" Marcus finally found his voice. It came out as a squeak. My sensors malfunctioned. I did not mean to trespass. I apologize." The Drakari woman walked closer. Each step she took shook the ground beneath Marcus's mech. She moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. When she stopped, she was close enough that Marcus could see every detail of her face. She had features that were almost human, if humans had scales and horns and teeth that could bite through steel. "Your sensors malfunctioned," she repeated. "And so you decided to walk blindly into enemy territory, during a piece that is only 2 years old, while piloting a machine that my youngest niece could crush with one hand. When you put it that way, it does sound rather foolish." Another laugh. This one was softer, more personal. "Foolish is not the word I would use. Suicidal, perhaps. Idiotic, certainly. But also," she paused, considering him with those copper eyes. "Interesting. You are interesting, little metal thing. My name is Marcus. Lieutenant Marcus Chun of the Terran Expansion Coalition. I know what you are. I can smell the fear coming off your machine from here. Your kind always smells like fear when you meet us." She leaned down, bringing her massive face closer to his cockpit. "But you are not running. Why are you not running?" Marcus thought about the question. He was terrified. His hands were shaking on the controls. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. But she was right. He was not running. Would it help if I did? The Drakari woman smiled. It was not a comforting expression, given the size of her teeth. No, it would not. But most of your kind try anyway. She straightened up and crossed her arms over her chest. I am Virathraxiel, third daughter of the Crimson Peak's clutch. You may call me Kira. It is easier for human tongues. Kyra, Marcus repeated. That's a nice name. It is not. It is a compromise because your species cannot properly pronounce anything. But I've grown used to it. She looked down at him again, and something in her expression shifted. The amusement was still there, but there was something else now. Curiosity, perhaps. Or calculation. You have trespassed on my territory, Marcus Jen. By the laws of my people, I have the right to kill you, or to claim you as a servant. Those are the only two options available to you. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Those are not great options. No, they are not. Kyra's smile widened. But I am feeling generous today, and you have made me laugh, which is something that has not happened in a very long time. So I will offer you a third choice. What kind of choice? Kira's copper eyes gleamed with something that Marcus could not identify. Come with me, little metal thing. I have a proposal for you. One that might just save your life and make mine considerably less boring. Marcus knew he should refuse. He knew this was probably a trap. He knew that following an alien predator into unknown territory was the worst decision he could possibly make. He followed her anyway. Argenum's spire was beautiful. The station hung in space like a silver jewel, its towers and domes catching the light of distant stars. It was a place of peace, built after the war as neutral ground where humans and Drakari could meet without weapons or hostility. Marcus had heard stories about it during his training. He never thought he would actually see it. The welcome banquet was held in the Grand Hall, a massive chamber designed to accommodate beings of all sizes. Human diplomats sat at tables on raised platforms, bringing them closer to eye level with their Drakari counterparts. Servants moved through the crowd carrying food and drinks from both cultures. The air was filled with the sound of conversation and careful laughter. Kira stood near the center of the hall, speaking with other Drakari nobles. She looked uncomfortable in her formal robes, constantly adjusting the golden chains that marked her status. Marcus watched from his position near the wall, the ironclad standing motionless beside a group of other mechanical suits belonging to human delegates. You are her herald, yes? Marcus turned to see a human woman approaching him. She was middle-aged, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She wore the uniform of a Terran diplomatic officer. Yes, ma'am. Lieutenant Marcus Chun. I know who you are. Your disappearance caused quite a panic at your base. The woman smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I am Ambassador Helena Cross. I oversee human interests at Argentum Spire. A pleasure to meet you, Ambassador. Is it? She looked at Kyra, then back at Marcus. You have been spending a great deal of time with the third daughter. Some might find that concerning. Marcus felt a flash of anger, but kept his voice calm. I am her herald. It is my job to spend time with her. Of course. Ambassador Cross studied him for a moment longer, then moved away without another word. The banquet continued. Marcus watched Kira move through the crowd, speaking with diplomats and nobles from both species. She was good at this, he realized. Better than she gave herself credit for. She knew when to smile and when to show her teeth. She knew how to make others feel important while revealing nothing of herself. But Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders. He could see the way her eyes kept darting to the exits. Something was wrong. The attack came without warning. One moment, the Grand Hall was filled with peaceful conversation. The next moment, the doors burst open and Drakari warriors poured inside. But these were not ordinary warriors. Their scales were different, marked with black lines that seemed to pulse with energy. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light. Combat implants, Marcus realized. Illegal augmentations that had been banned by the peace treaty. The augmented warriors moved with terrible speed. They cut through the station's security forces like they were nothing. Screams filled the air as diplomats and nobles scrambled for cover. Kyra roared. It was a sound of pure fury. A battle cry that shook the walls of the Grand Hall. She threw off her formal robes and launched herself at the attackers, her claws extended, her teeth bared. She was magnificent. She was terrifying. And she was alone against at least 20 enemies. Marcus watched as she fought. She was faster than he had imagined, more deadly than he had feared. She killed 3 of the augmented warriors in the first seconds of battle. But there were too many of them, and they had been prepared for her. One of them got behind her. Marcus saw the blade in its hand, saw the way it gleamed with something wet and wrong. Poison. The blade was poisoned. The warrior struck. The blade slipped between Kira's scales, finding the soft flesh beneath. She screamed. Not in fury this time, but in pain. Marcus did not think. He did not plan. He simply moved. The ironclad was not built for combat. It was a patrol mech designed for reconnaissance and light peacekeeping duties. Its weapons were minimal. Its armor was thin. Against augmented Drakari warriors, it had no chance. Marcus did not care. He sealed his cockpit and overrode every safety protocol in the system. He pushed the reactor to maximum output, flooding the mech with power it was never designed to handle. Warning lights flashed across his displays. Alarms screamed in his ears. He ignored all of it. The ironclad charged into the battle. The first warrior did not see him coming. Marcus hit it at full speed, the impact sending both of them crashing through a wall. The warrior was bigger and stronger, but Marcus had momentum and surprise. He brought the ironclad's fist down again and again until the warrior stopped moving. The second warrior turned to face him. It laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the chaos. "A human," it said. "In a toy. You think you can fight us?" Marcus answered by ripping a metal beam from the broken wall and swinging it like a club. The warrior dodged, but Marcus had expected that. He was not trying to hit the warrior. He was trying to create a distraction. The beam struck a control panel on the nearby wall. Sparks flew. Emergency systems activated. The section of the station began venting atmosphere into space. The warrior stumbled as the air pressure changed. Its augmented reflexes were good, but they were not perfect. Marcus used that moment to strike, driving the beam through the warrior's chest. 2 down. Too many left. Marcus fought like he had never fought before. He used every trick he had learned in training and invented new ones on the spot. He collapsed corridors to trap enemies. He overloaded power conduits to create explosions. He turned the station itself into a weapon, using its environment against enemies who were stronger and faster than him. He was not winning. He knew he was not winning. The ironclad was falling apart around him. Systems were failing. Armor was cracked. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds where impacts had thrown him against the inside of his cockpit. But he was not dying. And as long as he was not dying, he could keep fighting. He killed 2 more warriors. Then a third. Then a fourth. The remaining attackers began to hesitate. They had expected easy prey. They had not expected a human in a broken machine to become a demon of destruction. Marcus heard Kira roar again. But this time, it was not a cry of pain. It was something else. Something that made the attackers freeze. He turned to see her standing over the bodies of 3 more warriors. The poison was clearly affecting her. Her movements were slower, her breathing ragged. But she was still fighting, still refusing to fall. Their eyes met across the ruined hall. "You came for me," she said. There was wonder in her voice, disbelief. "You stupid little metal thing. You came for me." "I told you," Marcus said, his voice rough through the damaged speakers. "We survive. It is our thing." The remaining attackers fled. They had failed to kill their target, and reinforcements were arriving. Station security forces poured into the hall, finally responding to the chaos. Marcus felt the ironclad shudder beneath him. The mech had given everything it had. There was nothing left. He felt the systems begin to shut down, felt the cockpit go dark around him. The last thing he saw before he lost consciousness was Kyra's face, her copper eyes burning with an emotion he did not recognize. Later, he would learn that she had carried him out of the ruined mech herself. She had refused to let anyone else touch him. She had stayed by his side until the medical teams arrived, snarling at anyone who came too close. Later, he would learn that his actions had changed everything. But in that moment, all he knew was darkness and the strange comfort of knowing he had done something that mattered. 6 months had passed since the attack on Argenum Spire. 6 months of political chaos, diplomatic negotiations, and endless debates about what it all meant. The hardliner faction had been exposed and dismantled. The peace between humanity and the Drakari sisterhood was stronger than ever. And Marcus Chun had become one of the most famous humans in the galaxy. He hated it. "Another interview request," he said, scrolling through the messages on his datapad. "This one is from Earth News Network. They want to know about my heroic battle against impossible odds." Kyra snorted. The sound was like a small explosion. "Tell them you were mostly screaming and hoping not to die." I do not think that makes for good television. They were standing on the bridge of the Crimson Dawn, Kira's new flagship. It was a joint project between human and Drakari engineers, the first vessel of its kind ever built. Human technology merged with Drakari design, creating something that neither species could have made alone. Marcus's mech stood in the center of the bridge, rebuilt and upgraded with Drakari alloys and human innovation. It was twice as strong as before, 3 times as fast, and equipped with weapons that would have been science fiction a year ago. The engineers had wanted to give it a new name, something grand and impressive. Marcus had insisted on keeping the old one. The ironclad had earned its name in blood. "Your people are arriving," Kyra said, gesturing toward the viewport. A human shuttle was approaching the flagship, carrying the latest group of personnel for the joint expedition. Humans and Drakari would be working side by side for the first time in history, exploring unknown space together. It was a mission that would have been unthinkable before the attack on Argentum Spire. Some said it was politics. Some said it was symbolism. Marcus knew it was something else entirely. It was hope. "I should go greet them," he said, but he did not move. Kyra looked down at him with those copper eyes that he had come to know so well. 6 months of learning each other. 6 months of awkward moments and unexpected discoveries. 6 months of finding ways to bridge the gap between 2 very different beings. It had not been easy. There were days when the differences felt insurmountable. There were nights when Marcus wondered if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. But there were also moments of connection so deep and surprising that they took his breath away. "You are worried," Kira said. It was not a question. "The crew will talk. They will see us together, and they will talk. Let them talk. Your people will disapprove." A Drakari noble with a human. It goes against centuries of tradition. Kira made a dismissive gesture with her clawed hand. "My people can file a formal complaint. I hear the bureaucracy takes about 16 months to process anything." Marcus laughed. It was a running joke between them now, that number. 16 months since Kyra had been intimate. 16 months of loneliness before he stumbled into her life. It seemed like fate, though neither of them believed in such things. 16 months, he repeated. You know, that was the first time I thought you might actually like me. When you told me that, I did not tell you because I liked you. I told you because you were the first person in years who seemed genuinely interested in listening. Everyone else just wanted something from me. Status, power, connections. You just wanted to talk. I was terrified of you. I know. I could smell it. Her lips curved into a smile. But you were terrified, and you kept talking anyway. That was when I knew you were different. The human shuttle docked with a soft thump. Marcus could hear the sounds of the airlock cycling, preparing to admit the new arrivals. Your mother contacted me again, he said. Kyra's expression darkened. What does she want? She wants to meet me, officially, as your partner. The word still felt strange on his tongue. Partner. Such a simple word for something so complicated. They were not married by human standards. They were not bonded by Drakari traditions. They were something new, something that had no name in either language. And what did you tell her? I told her I would think about it. You should refuse. My mother is terrifying. You have mentioned that. Multiple times. I mention it because it is true. She will try to intimidate you. She will ask impossible questions. She will test you in ways you cannot prepare for. Marcus looked up at her. Way up, as he always had to. She was enormous and ancient by human standards, a being of power and fire and scales that could stop bullets. And she was worried about him meeting her mother. I faced 20 augmented warriors with a patrol mech, he said. I think I can handle one meeting. The warriors were trying to kill you. My mother will do something worse. She will judge you. Then let her judge. I have nothing to hide. Kira stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something that made several nearby crew members gasp. She reached down with her massive clawed hand and wrapped it around the ironclad's frame. Pulling the mech close to her chest, Marcus recognized the gesture. He had seen it once before in historical recordings. It was a claiming, a choosing, a public declaration that this person belonged to her and she to them. The bridge fell silent. Human and Drakari crew members alike stopped what they were doing to watch. You stupid little metal thing, Kyra said, but her voice was soft, tender. Do you have any idea how much trouble you have caused me? I have some idea. I was supposed to be the forgotten daughter, the unimportant one, the sister who would fade into the background and bother no one. And then you came along. Sorry about that. Do not apologize. I have never been happier. She pressed her forehead against the cockpit of the mech, a gesture of intimacy that made Marcus's heart ache. When I told you I had not been intimate in 16 months, I thought I was broken. I thought there was something wrong with me, that I could not find connection with my own people. But I was not broken. I was just waiting. Waiting for what? For you, apparently. A soft little human who wraps himself in metal and does impossible things. Marcus opened a cum channel to the whole bridge. He was not sure why. It felt right. This is Lieutenant Marcus Chen, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. I am going to be unavailable for the next few hours. Maybe days. Do not wait up. The human crew erupted in cheers. The Drakari crew stomped their feet in approval, a thunderous sound of acceptance. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of two civilizations, dozens of diplomats were probably reaching for headache medicine. Kira carried him away from the bridge, toward her private quarters. Marcus did not protest. He had learned many things in the past 6 months. But the most important was this. Sometimes the best things in life came from getting completely and utterly lost. He had wandered into enemy territory with a broken mech and a malfunctioning sensor array. He had found something he never expected. He had found home. Behind him, the stars stretched out in infinite possibility. Ahead of them, the future waited, uncertain and exciting and completely unknown. Whatever came next, they would face it together. A human in a metal suit and a dragon woman 40 feet tall. It should not have worked. By every logical measure, it should have been a disaster. But humans had never been very good at listening to logic. They were too busy doing impossible things. And that, more than anything else, was what made them special. The Crimson Dawn sailed onward, carrying its crew toward new horizons. And in her quarters, the third daughter of the Crimson Peaks, Clutch held her impossible partner close and laughed at the universe that had brought them together. It was. She decided very good to be surprised. Marcus woke up 3 days later in a medical bay that was clearly not designed for humans. The bed was too large. The ceiling was too high. Everything around him was built for beings much bigger than himself. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his entire body. He had broken ribs, a fractured arm, and more bruises than he could count. The medical team had done their best, but human bodies were fragile things. "You are awake." Marcus turned his head to see Kira sitting beside his bed. She looked different than he remembered. Smaller, somehow, though he knew that was impossible. The poison had been treated, but he could still see the bandages wrapped around her midsection where the blade had struck. "How long?" he asked. His voice was rough from disuse. 3 days. The human doctors wanted to move you to a human facility. I refused. You refused? You are my herald. My responsibility. She paused. And I did not want you to be alone when you woke up. Marcus did not know what to say to that. He lay back against the oversized pillow and stared at the ceiling. "The attackers," he said finally. "Who were they?" "Hardliners. A faction of my people who believed the war should have continued. They wanted to kill me to hurt my mother, to restart the conflict." Kyra's voice was flat, controlled. "They've been dealt with. The Sisterhood does not tolerate traitors. I'm sorry." Kyra looked at him with confusion. "Why are you sorry? You saved my life. You killed 4 of them yourself. You should be proud. I am sorry that your own people tried to kill you. That must hurt." For a long moment, Kira did not respond. Then she made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. "You are strange, Marcus-chan. Any Drakari in your position would be boasting about their victory, demanding rewards, proclaiming their glory to anyone who would listen. But you apologize for my pain. Boasting feels wrong when you are lying in a hospital bed. Yes, I suppose it does." She was quiet for a while. Marcus could hear distant sounds. Voices, footsteps, the hum of the station systems. Life continuing as it always did, even after violence and death. "Do you know what you did?" Kyra asked finally. "Not the fighting, though that was impressive enough." "Do you know what it meant?" "I did what anyone would do." "No, you did not. Any Drakari in that situation would have done the logical thing. They would have protected themselves. They would have fled to safety and called for help. No one would have blamed them. It would have been the smart choice. I could not leave you there. Why not? I am not your family. I am not your mate. I am barely even your friend. I am an alien who forced you into servitude to save your life. You owed me nothing." Marcus thought about the question. He thought about the moment when he had seen the blade strike her, the moment when something inside him had simply snapped. "I do not know," he admitted. "I saw you fighting alone. I saw you fall, and I just could not stand there and watch. It was not a decision. It was just what had to happen." Kira made that strange sound again. This time, Marcus was sure it was not a laugh. In Drakari culture, we have a concept called the proving. It is how we choose our mates, our closest bonds. Not through words or promises, but through action. Through moments that reveal who someone truly is. She leaned closer to him, her copper eyes intense. What you did was approving, Marcus. You showed yourself to be someone willing to die for me. Someone who would fight against impossible odds, not for glory or reward, but simply because it was right. I was just trying to help. I know. That is what makes it meaningful. You did not do it to impress me. You did not do it to gain favor or status. You did it because you are the kind of person who does such things. She reached out with one massive clawed hand and very gently touched the side of his face. Her scales were warm, almost hot, and surprisingly smooth. I have never met anyone like you, she said softly. My whole life, I have been surrounded by warriors and diplomats, politicians and nobles. All of them playing games, all of them seeking advantage. And then you stumbled into my hunting ground, a lost little human in a broken machine, and you surprised me. You said that before. That I surprised you. I did. And I meant it. But I do not think I understood how much until I watched you charge into that battle. Her eyes softened. You should have died. By every measure of strength and power that my people understand, you should have died in the first seconds. But you did not. You fought with everything you had, and then you found more. That is not something we see in our own kind very often. We are born strong. We do not know how to fight when everything is against us. Humans have a lot of practice at that. Yes, you do. She withdrew her hand, but her eyes never left his face. I want you to understand something, Marcus. What happened between us has changed things. In the eyes of my people, you have proven yourself. That means something. It means that any bond between us would be considered legitimate, honored, protected by our laws and traditions. Marcus felt his heart begin to beat faster. He was not sure he understood what she was saying, but some part of him did. What kind of bond? Kara smiled. It was a small smile, almost shy, which looked very strange on a face that could frighten armies. That depends on what you want. Approving creates possibility. It does not create obligation. I am telling you this so that you understand your options, not so that you feel pressured to choose any of them. What options? You could leave. Return to your human military. Report what happened. Continue with your life. No one would stop you. You would be celebrated as a hero by both our peoples. What else? You could stay. As my herald, my companion, She hesitated. My partner. In whatever way you are comfortable with. Drakari bonds are not like human marriage. They are more flexible, more varied. They can be whatever the people involved want them to be. Marcus looked at her. He thought about his life back in the Terran military. The endless patrols, the boring routine, the complete lack of anything that felt meaningful. He thought about his family back on Earth, who he loved but rarely saw. He thought about the future he had imagined for himself, which had always seemed vague and distant. Then he thought about the past week, the conversations that had lasted for hours, the way Kyra laughed, the way she listened when he spoke, as if every word mattered, the way she had looked at him in the ruined Grand Hall with wonder and gratitude and something else he was only beginning to understand. If I stayed, he said slowly, what would that mean? For us, it would mean we take things slowly. We learn about each other. We figure out what works and what does not. There would be challenges. My people and yours are very different. There would be those who disapprove, who think such a bond is unnatural or wrong. I do not care what they think. Kyra's eyes widened. You do not? No. I spent 3 weeks learning about you. I spent 3 days unconscious dreaming about you. And right now, the only thing I can think about is how much I do not want to go back to my old life. Whatever this is, whatever it could be, I want to find out. Hira was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. It was a gesture Marcus did not recognize, but it felt important. Then stay, Marcus-chan. Stay, and let us discover together what we can become. He stayed,